Greetings, my fellow Denzians of the 41st millennium, and welcome to the channel. I am your gracious host, Adeptus Artorum, and in today's video we will aim to deliver some crucial information on the gargantuan, perverted and twisted god engines of war known as the Chaos Titans. Now, before I begin, I would like to briefly apologise to our viewers and subscribers for our hiatus. But as we know, sometimes life gets in the way, but make no mistake, we still aim to continue to deliver you guys the lore and stories you so crave within the grim darkness of the far future. And we appreciate all of you guys that have stuck with us through this period and continue to show us support and enjoy our videos. Now, with that said, let's get on with this video. Now, as with most things in Chaos, I feel that it is imperative that I give a brief overview of its loyalist counterpart, as a large fraction of the Chaos entities within the 41st millennium are in fact corrupted beings, machines or otherwise, once belonging to another specific force, race or empire. So what exactly is a Titan? Well, simply put, a Titan is a hulking bipedal war machine capable of raising entire planets, leaving nothing but the fire of death in its wake. Titans, sometimes being referred to as god engine or god machines, could refer to one of many classes of massive crude combat walkers, usually deployed by either one of the feared Titan legions of the Adeptus Mechanicus' Collegia Titanica, or of course by the forces of Chaos's Dark Mechanicum, to which is the focus of this video. Now, I just want to make it clear that originally the term Titan was used to refer to essentially any large-scale war machine considered to be the largest and most powerful used by the various races and factions within the Milky Way galaxy. But in the passing of time, Imperial scholars have essentially labelled each faction's larger war machines coherently with the races to whom they belong. For example, the Eldar Titans are labelled Eldari Phantoms, Orc Titans are named Gargants, and so on and so forth. And so the only Titans considered to be true Titans are those which fill the ranks of both the Adeptus Mechanicus' Titan Legios and the warp and corrupted Titan Legios of the Dark Mechanicum. Titans are considered to be the most sacred of all war machines within the Imperium, absolutely coveted by the Mechanicus, being what they believe to be the purest incarnation of the Omnissiah or machine god in the entire material universe. And so, as mentioned earlier, they are given the name God Engines or God Machines, an apt label for fanatic believers of the cult Mechanicus. These god engines are essentially the entire backbone of the Adeptus Mechanicus' military might, and are the largest and most devastating ground units that can be deployed in the entirety of the Imperium of Mankind's military arsenal. In fact, the true scale of a Titan has been stated as hard to even visualise, and the deployment of such machines upon the field of battle and the mere sight of one to a regular conscripted human force within the Imperium can cause overwhelming distress both physically and mentally as they struggle to comprehend what exactly it is that they are seeing. It's also worth noting that all activities pertaining to the Titans are overseen within the Imperium by a division within the Adeptus Mechanicus known as the Collegia Titanica, as mentioned before, also referred to as the Adeptus Titanicus, though in much rarer circumstances. Now, I could go into the Collegia Titanica in more and more detail, but honestly this subject could span the entire length of the video, and that's not what you are here for today. And so I will leave this here and endeavour to delve deeper into this subject in another video if that is something that you would wish to see. Now, Titans were originally created by the predecessor of the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Mechanicum of Mars, and were essentially a way for the newly forming religion of the cult Mechanicum and its governing Mechanicum to fight the ongoing struggle to reclaim the Red Planet from the insane machines and mutant beings that dominated its surface, and these combat walkers were pivotal in doing so. After the reclamation of the Red Planet at the hands of the ancient Mechanicum's military might, the Titans were then later deployed to accompany the early colony fleets of the Mechanicum, which were sent hurtling blindly through the warp to establish what would become the first of the Forge Worlds, which would ultimately lead to the creation of the Titan Legions, large armed forces made up entirely of Titans with specific loyalty to that particular Forge World. As stated before, Titans are absolutely huge, most spanning a height of around 15 to over 60 metres tall, that being around 50 to 196 feet tall, though it is worth mentioning the extremely rare Emperor class Titan is significantly larger, standing almost 150 metres tall, that being around 492 feet, and can essentially carry an entire city upon their carapace, enabling entire armies to be transported within and wielding firepower rarely seen within the 41st millennium, excluding that of Exterminatus. Now, most classes of Titan can be essentially sorted into physical grades, arranging the war machines in regards to size and armaments, while placing them in roles suited for those particular armaments and sizes, while also taking into account the combat proficiency of that particular engine. So firstly we have what we call Scout Titans. These class of Titans are much smaller, a lot more mobile, and are able to achieve things the larger war engines aren't capable of, fitting the role of things like reconnaissance for their respective legion, and moving to more combative roles including things such as infantry fire support, and a vast majority of Scout Titans are employed in this way by their specific legion. Moving forward, we have the Battle Class Titans. The Battle Titans are the most commonly deployed classes of Titans upon the field of battle, and are essentially what provide the entire backbone of the force for any Titan Legion. These larger scale Titans are essentially what all Titan Legions rely on in regards to firepower, and just one of these machines has been known to cull entire rebellions and decimate entire cities in mere hours. Now, as I mentioned before, there is a much rarer, much larger class of Titan known as an Emperor class Titan. These war machines are essentially one of the most coveted things in the entire Imperium. These absolutely monstrous engines are known to be the true rulers of the battlefield in the entirety of the 41st millennium, with very little opposing their might. And the two existing classes of these hulking god machines are what provide a Titan Legion's primary offensive and defensive capability and power. Now, before I continue, I thought I would explain that though these god engines are broken down into classes, don't make the mistake of thinking that one is more important than the other, as they all fill pivotal roles within their respective legions, and it is said that entire battalions have been known to be expended in endeavours to literally reclaim just one of these machines if it has fallen in battle. So, I find it important to explain that Titans are absolutely unique, in the sense that their machine spirits, essentially their computer mind cores, are quite literally sentient. Though it is explained to be in a more strange and erratic way to say that of a human being. And I say this in contrast to the usually non-sentient machine spirits that you find on board other forms of Imperial war machines, like tanks and other specific armoured vehicles. Titans are usually crewed by what we call a princeps, essentially a senior officer of the Collegia Titanica who assumes command over the Titan and all of its crewmen. The rest of the crew is made up of moderati, essentially specialist officers of the Collegia Titanica that serve under the command of the princeps, tech priests who are there to generally maintain and care for the Titans' technological needs, and of course servitors, the mindless cybernetic drones created from a fusion of human flesh and robotic technology that are used to carry out simple, menial manual tasks. Now, I feel that I have given a basic explanation as to what these war engines are, and as stated about the Collegia Titanica previously, this could essentially turn into a video all about Loyalist Titans, but that is not why you are here. Though we could delve deeper into this subject, I feel that I have given an adequate overview of what a Titan essentially is. And so without further ado, let's get to the topic of this video, the Chaos Titans. Now, the reason I gave the above overview, as I stated, is simply because most things in Chaos exist as essentially a dark mirror of whatever it is that the corruption of Chaos has now spread to. Now serving the will of their respective Chaos entity, deity, lord, or upon occasion an alliance of Chaos as a whole, referred to as Chaos Undivided. And to this end, Chaos Titans are much the same. Chaos Titans are usually extremely similar in both form and function to that of an Imperial Titan, though of course bear the specific corruption, blight or gift of their respective Chaos deity or alignment depending on what your point of view is. The biggest difference between that of a Chaos Titan and a Loyalist Titan is that the Chaos Titan's long exposure to the warp and the Chaos powers within have essentially twisted and forged it into an amalgamation of both machine and demon, at times merging both crew and machine, making it nearly impossible to perceive where the crew ends and the machine begins. As stated before, some Titan crews give themselves over entirely to the service of just one of the four great ruinous powers of Chaos, that being either Nurgle, the Lord of Plagues, spreading disease and pestilence, the Blood God Khorne, Lord of Battle, Tzeentch, the bizarre and ever-changing Architect of Fate, and at last but not least, the Dark Prince of Chaos, Slaanesh, indulgent of every pleasure and excess, no matter how immoral or perverse, and as such have been transformed to represent that specific god's image and goals. Now, during the galaxy-spanning war known as the Horus Heresy, which would essentially split the Imperium of Man in two, half of the then Mechanicum, what would essentially become the now Adeptus Mechanicum, including hundreds of Titan legions, accepted the dark corrupting influence and turned to the worship of Chaos, taking their mighty god engines along with them, leading to the formation of Chaos Titan legions, becoming part of the Dark Mechanicum. To this very day, many other Titan legions have fallen to the corrupting influence of Chaos, swelling the ranks of the Chaos Titan legions in the millennium since the end of the heresy. Now, as we just discussed within the ranks of Imperial Titans, there are also classes within the ranks of Chaos Titan legions. But this time I'm going to talk about specific classes of Titans within Chaos, starting with the Feral class Scout Titan. So, the Feral class Scout Titan is essentially the corrupted and warped counterpart to the standard Warhound class Scout Titan of the Imperium, and as such are used in a similar, if not identical, combat role. Within the forces of Chaos, the feared Chaos Warhound class Titans have been reclassified, now bearing the designation Feral class Titans by the Imperium of Mankind, and have seen over a millennia of service in the ranks of the traitor legions of the Dark Mechanicum in their pursuit of the never-ending war against the Imperium of Man, becoming utterly deformed by the demonic energies of the warp and the ever-changing favour granted to these abominable war machines by the ruinous powers of Chaos. Many of these now debauched god engines will easily date back to the heresy, if not long before, and their machine spirits have been wholly corrupted, consumed, and possessed by the infecting powers of chaos. The Titan's once loyal serving machine spirit and its now damned crew will become possessed by demonic entities of the warp and are henceforth doomed to serve only the will of the chaos gods, whatever that may be, for all eternity. Now, before we move on from the Scout class Titans, I just want to mention a specific god-aligned Scout Titan, simply to give you guys an idea of what I mean when I talk about these Titans that are in utter devotion and service to a particular Chaos entity. And as we are still on the topic of Chaos Scout Titans, I thought it only right to give Slaanesh Scout Titans a mention. Now, Slaanesh Scout Titans, as the name suggests, are Scout Titans that are utterly devoted in their entirety to the Chaos God Slaanesh. They possess an incredible amount of speed, allowing them to engage enemy units well before the rest of the Legion has even come into range. As they swiftly skirt around their foes, they surge with energy, continuously drawing raw power from the warp to essentially maintain their essence within the physical realm. Inside the hardy carapace of these debauched god engines is bound a demon, continually guiding the machine with its sheer force of will, firing its weapons with as much ease as a feather blowing in the wind. Much like their smaller Chaos Knight counterparts, Slaanesh Titans do not utilise any form of ion shield technology, instead utilising a glittering wall of energy that forms around them, created by the warp interface within the machine, anchoring the demon spirit within to the material realm. This ever-shifting aura is referred to as the glamour of Slaanesh, and essentially makes a Slaanesh Titan extremely hard to accurately target. In essence, it works similarly to an Eldari holofield, and in that way it emulates Eldar Titans. Much like the holofields, the glamour of Slaanesh proves useless against weapons that do not rely on pinpoint accuracy, like missile barrages or weapons that cause area explosions. In addition to this fact, since the glamour of Slaanesh is an interface within the Immaterium, it also provides some measure of protection against attacks that draw from the warp, such as psychic attacks or vortex missiles. Now, I won't go into known variants of Slaanesh Titans at this time, and there are of course other Titans devoted entirely to the other Chaos Gods: the Banelord class Titan devoted to Khorne, the Plague Lord class Titan devoted to Nurgle, the Pain Lord class Titan devoted to Slaanesh, and of course the Warp Lord class Titan devoted to Tzeentch. But as I said, I won't go into these now, simply because the prior information was just to give you an idea of the changes a Titan may go through when in the service of one particular Chaos God. And we still have a good amount to cover here, and as always, if the intricacies of Titans devoted solely to one Chaos God are a topic that you would like us to cover in the future, just pop a comment below and we'll consider it for our future content. So moving forward, once more, we come to the Ravager class Battle Titans, the Chaos Warped version of the Imperial Reaver class Titan. Now, I must state that Reaver class Titans are absolutely irreplaceable relics left from the days of the Horus Heresy, and have become so due to the Mechanicus' inability to now produce more of these war engines due to the loss of knowledge to do so. And in order to differentiate the Chaos Reavers from their loyalist counterparts, the Imperium has redesignated these war engines Ravager class Battle Titans, though it is worth mentioning that this name is rarely used. These god machines are usually the remnants of traitor Titan legions who sided with the Warmaster Horus Lupercal during the Heresy, and as such, their blasphemous names still echo with nothing but dread even thousands of Terran years later. The grand majority of these hulking god engines have seen a millennia of service within the ruinous powers and have long since become irrevocably corrupted by the touch of the warp. Not all of these god engines have been in service of chaos since the Horus Heresy though. Others have been salvaged from numerous battles and encounters as spoils of war, much to the eternal shame of their former princeps, and personally I wouldn't want to explain that one to the Magi. Now, once one of these god engines has been captured, they are then subjected to bloody rituals in order to essentially consecrate them, binding them into the service of the Chaos gods. With time, these Chaos Reaver battle titans, like a grand majority of other machines and forces of the ruinous powers, become an amalgam of both demon and machine, fusing their once living crew to the controls of the engine, creating a monstrous symbiotic beast, the once alive crew's souls subsumed into the Chaos Titan's corrupted machine spirit. As for the god engine itself, it is now, as stated before, essentially symbiotically bonded, and all before mentioned elements, the crew, the machine and the demon, are now reborn as a single, warped and distorted being, dedicated to nothing but destruction and butchery, doomed to spend an eternity of bloody battle in servitude to the powers of chaos. It's also worth mentioning that the heretics, essentially the warped tech priests of the Dark Mechanicum, absolutely revere these engines, administering rites and tending them constantly. It's even said that the lesser servants of the Dark Mechanicum began viewing these debauched god engines of destruction as incarnations of gods of fire and death. Many of the lesser life forms of chaos offer the sacrifice of captives and upon occasion even their own lives in an attempt to satisfy these gargantuan engines' thirst for blood. Now, moving on from the Chaos Reaver Titan, we have yet another ancient and irreplaceable class of Titan amongst the forces of the ruinous powers, given that the grand majority of them are again left over from the previous battles of the Horus Heresy millennia ago. The Titan in question is the Chaos Warlord class Battle Titan. Now, as mentioned previously, the Warlord class Battle Titans, which serve within the forces of Chaos, much like the Chaos Reavers, are essentially relics of the traitor legions of the Horus Heresy, and so like many of the existing Heresy-era Titans serving the ruinous powers, their names still echo with dread and fear millennia after the events of the galaxy-spanning Heresy. Due to a majority of these monstrous war engines serving the forces of chaos for millennia after the Horus Heresy, almost all of them in the years of service have become utterly and irrevocably tainted by the ruinous powers of chaos. In an attempt to differentiate these towering war machines from that of Imperial Warlord Titans, the Imperium broke Chaos Warlord Titans down into a few separate classifications, and these classifications were later adopted by the traitor crews of these Chaos God engines, and I may add that they were only too happy to adopt them. So, the Chaos Warlord class Titan has 4 different variations, and these variations depend on which god of chaos the Titan is aligned to. These variants being the before mentioned Banelord Titan aligned to Khorne, the Plague Lord Titan aligned to Nurgle, the Pain Lord Titan aligned to Slaanesh, and the Warp Lord Titan aligned to Tzeentch. And all of these specific classifications of Titans are of course armed with weaponry and use tactics employed by their specific god's pantheon. Now, it's also worth mentioning that even though these different versions of the Chaos Corrupted Warlord class Titan exist, the most common variant to be seen operating on the battlefields alongside the various forces of Chaos tends to be the Banelord Titan, the before mentioned god engines aligned specifically with the Blood God and Lord of Battle, Khorne. Now, I can only assume that this is simply due to the nature of Khorne and his worshippers, essentially reveling in blood and battle and effectively jumping head-on into battles and skirmishes whenever and wherever the opportunity arises. Now, moving on to the absolutely monstrous world-ending behemoths known as the Emperor Titan. It goes without saying these dominating gods of warfare have a reputation that precedes them on both chaos and imperial battlefields. These engines are the absolute pinnacle of warfare and destruction ever created and deployed by the Imperium of mankind. Now, this being said, the forces of chaos possess few of these monstrosities, essentially those few that fall into the hands of the traitor legions of the Dark Mechanicum during the many battles of the Horus Heresy. And those few that still exist to this day are deployed upon the battlefield only in very rare circumstances, usually only in cases in which the forces of the ruinous powers have decided that victory must be secured, no matter what. They are willing to pay almost any price to ensure it, and the outcome will be ensured no matter what, as said before. Emperor Titans can be broken down into two classifications, the Imperator class and the Warmonger class. The Imperator class being the largest of the Emperor class Titans deployed, and though they appear physically similar in almost every way, the functions of each specific class varies significantly. For an example, the many weapon systems upon a Warmonger Titan provide it with much longer weapon range and a significantly larger amount of accuracy, giving it the capability to perform deep strikes and take on a fire support role. This effectively allows the Warmonger to essentially stand back and decimate its foes from a much further distance than that of an Imperator class. So, as you could imagine, a grand majority of Chaos Emperor Titans, like so many other Titans bound in servitude to the ruinous powers, have usually also fallen under the possession of a demon. But with the Emperor Titans, it tends to be that of a greater demon, which, as you can imagine, warp and transform these once shining Imperial war engines into towering leviathans of warp-debauched steel and adamantium, turning this once proud beacon of the Imperium's might into one of the most debauched and vile towering incarnations of chaos ever seen in the Materium, showcasing chaos and the power it wields to any who would dare to oppose it. I will also mention that there is in fact another class of Titan, a Titan that stands between that of the Reaver and Warlord classes in regards to armament and size. This specific Titan is named the Warbringer class Titan, and it is renowned for having many sub-variants employed within the Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, many of you may think, why even bother with a class in between the Reaver and the Warlord? Well, simply put, this specific god engine is essentially designed to engage enemy Titan class targets at range, enabling it to act as a dedicated fire support platform in the respective maniples that it is assigned to. Now, I won't go much further into this class of Titan, as again, I could essentially span yet another full video talking about this particular Titan, and that is something that we can explore in a future video, but I just thought that it would be worth mentioning. Now, there are also other topics I could mention within this video, but I think that I have covered the basics of Chaos Titans and what they are. Just as with our previous videos on Chaos Knights, we plan to take a larger and more detailed delve into the specifics of Chaos Titans, including the many traitor legions, different rituals and undertakings involved in the creation of Chaos Titans, and of course specific Chaos Titans and the stories surrounding them. But as always, before I leave you guys, I shall leave you guys with a quote that I find to be in some way relevant to our topic, and today's quote will be from Magos Cain of the Fivefold Path. The path of the Omnissiah has left humanity dithering in the darkness, incapable of advancing on the paths of knowledge. Embracing the warp reveals technology that the primitives on Mars could never dream of wielding. Now, this has been a very basic delve into the gargantuan war engines serving the ruinous powers of chaos, the Chaos Titans. As previously stated, we have only covered some essentials regarding this topic in this video, but rest assured, as before mentioned, we plan to cover more topics regarding Chaos Titans in future content. As always, we hope that you have enjoyed this video and it has helped to deliver some basic insight into Chaos Titans. And if you do enjoy our content, please consider hitting that thumbs up below and sharing this content for others to enjoy. If you do wish to stay up to date with when we post new content, consider subscribing. We really appreciate your support, and in turn it helps us to know that we are delivering the content that you wish to see, and it motivates us to continue doing so. With that, I am your gracious host, Adeptus Artorum, and I thank you for watching.